Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start our video with a story in which the HOA once again tried to overstep its authority and make our OP's life miserable. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. HOA wants me to change my driveway of the model home. Came home from work to a letter from my HOA. It was noted on a recent inspection of the community that you're storing artificial turn in your driveway. Upon receipt of this notice, please take the time to remove this from the common area. No, that was not a typo from me. They want us to remove the artificial turn we're storing somewhere on our driveway. I surmise they're implying we need to remove a little strip of artificial grass that was a design accent from the builder of my house, Leonard. We're only 2 years in as first owners of this house. Basically, everyone here is a first owner in the 50-plus home neighborhood built in 2019. Yeah, my house was also the model home. We didn't change anything in the front yard. There's no way the inspector who lives in our neighborhood forgot he or she used my house as a discussion point of whether they should buy their own home. Just all-around incompetence. While the HOA can legally amend the bylaws to not allow artificial grass for new renovations, they want me to renovate the design that was used to sell every house in the neighborhood with my own money. Talk about immoral. Pretty sure they can't do that. I wrote a very polite email stating that while I don't object changing my driveway, as I don't even like the artificial turf, thanks to neighborhood dogs peeing on it on walks, they'll need to finance the remodel as I'm not spending money to change something I bought that existed before the HOA did. Edit. Update. The HOA rep responded to the email with one sentence saying they're going to close the case and that they were sorry for the misunderstanding. They thought we were storing artificial turf in the driveway. What a waste of time. I'm a bit relieved it didn't require more conflict to resolve this, as I'm sure many of you would have liked a longer story. My wife and I think the HOA, or at least one of the inspectors, were just trying to see how much influence they could push. There's no logical explanation where anyone could mistake installed artificial grass as if it was on a Home Depot shelf. I surmise they wanted to see if we were pushovers who would avoid conflict at any cost and change it to the way they wanted without questioning them. I don't know what other explanation there would be. And our second story. Never deny the carryout service. This happened decades back when I was a young assistant manager for a national marine retailer. We sold everything you could ever need for your boat. At each of our stores, we had significant shelf space dedicated to paint in two broad categories: topside paint that was used above the waterline and bottom paint that was made to be painted beneath the waterline. For those of you that don't know, marine bottom paint has metal added, typically copper, to allow it to corrode in the water and slough off a bit of the hull. The important thing to remember is that bottom paint is heavy. 1 gallon of this stuff can easily weigh 40 to 50 pounds depending on the metal content. Enter Jocular Joe, a semi-regular customer that would come in every few weeks and drop a few hundred each time. Joe comes in and immediately points out his brand new Chevrolet pickup in the back of the parking lot. From a distance, you can tell it was a nice truck, solid black with custom tires, tent, etc. A nice new truck. Joe goes on a spree of sorts and decides to buy some bottom paint, among other things, and I help with finding the kind he needs. A heavy copper content and white, 3 gallons. I place the paint up on the counter, and then he goes and finds another 2 bags worth of product, so that at checkout he has 2 bags plus 3 gallons of bottom paint. Now, Jocular Joe's one of those guys that's always trying to show his manliness, and he's never going to let another 6'4" large dude think he can't do something. So when I assume he's going to need help taking his paint to the truck and begin loading it all in a buggy to follow him out, he gets a bit testy. "What are you doing, bruh?" Sorry, I was just going to take this out to the truck for you." "Oh, bruh, I don't need any help. I got this." "Yeah, man, but this is heavy crap. That's like 150 pounds of paint. And then the bags? Just let me take it out there for you, man. It's kind of my job." "No, dude, totally not needed, man." At this point, my manager and friend sees what's going on and slides into action. "Hey, Joe, you need some help with that?" "No, man, I got this." "Seriously, why are you two being so damn weird? Why can't I just take it out there on my own?" Well, it's just that once it leaves those doors, it isn't our problem anymore, but if we take it to the car, we're responsible until the time it gets in the car. So we both knew he was going to drop something. It was a given. These are not some sort of super cans that hold the paint. They're just normal paint cans, and the point of failure on any of these cans is the crappy bent hoop metal handle that they use. We've seen it happen before, and it's never a good thing. So Joe's pulling stuff out of the basket, a giant paper bag in each arm, one can of paint in one hand, two in the other. "I told you guys it isn't a problem," he says as he backs out the front door. "Just so we're clear, we're no longer liable once you exit the store," says my manager. Joe nods his head in approval with a big grin on his face and goes on his way. We stand and watch as he makes the trek through the mostly empty parking lot to the new black Chevy towards the back. For years, I've wondered what must have been going through his mind as he traversed the asphalt that day. The obvious pain that would be cramping his hands, how he was going to get his keys out. Oh yeah, the keys. So he gets to the truck, and then we start seeing him fumbling, like he's trying to pull his keys out of his pocket. But Jocular Joe can't be seen as weak, so he's trying to do this with the hand that still has a single can of paint in it, without putting down the bags or the other cans. Then it happens. One of the hoops on a can pops out, and a gallon of white marine bottom paint hits the asphalt, popping the lid off and showering the ground. Jocular Joe in the brand new black Chevy with the white paint. Apparently, Joe was not as level-headed as he appeared and was instantly enraged, Royd-style, set off, and slams all the things he's currently carrying to the ground like a pissed-off 5-year-old being denied a cookie. But Jocular Joe forgot about the other 2 gallons of paint. They do the same thing, only with more effect. Jocular Joe and the entire side of the new black Chevy is now drenched in white bottom paint. He curses loudly for a minute or two, staring at his busted cans, loose items from the torn bags, and then remembers that he had an audience. Jocular Joe was coming to get reparations. Now, I mentioned I was a big guy, but so was my manager, and we'd operated a mostly upscale store in a rather notorious strip mall that saw gangs and drive-bys fairly regularly. So we aren't exactly afraid when Joe storms back to the front door with the look of murder on his face. We stop him before he can enter. Well, because he's dripping paint everywhere, and we didn't want to have to clean that crap up. "I effing demand a GD refund." "For what exactly?" I ask. "Those cans of paint were faulty. They busted and sprayed paint all over my new truck." "Well, we did offer to carry those out for you, but you refused." My manager chimes in with, "We also told you that once you leave the store, we're no longer liable." "This is bullcrap. What the F am I supposed to do about my truck?" "Well," my manager says as he opens a register and pulls out 75 cents, "there's a car wash right around the corner. If you get there quick enough, you might be able to get most of that off before it dries." He hands him the change, because if it dries, it isn't coming off. Jocular Joe looks at the 2 of us, then dashes back to the truck, picks up his spilled items and throws them all in the bed of the truck. Then he disrobes down to his underwear, tossing his clothes in the back as well, and burns rubber out of the parking lot in the direction of the car wash 2 blocks over. We didn't see Jocular Joe for about 8 months. He became a legend we spoke of on conference calls and with other customers. But the thing about running a boating supply store is that they always come back in. So when Jocular Joe does come back in, he's very nice and amenable to me and my manager and the other employees. He purchases only a few items, spending less than $100, not quite a bag full. One of the other employees rings him up and I walk over. "Hey Joe, do you need a hand taking that out to the truck?" Joe looks at me for a second, then a Cheshire cat smile creeps across his face. "No, bruh, I got this." And our last story. A piece of my property is now yours? We'll see. Rewind for a minute with me and go back about 2 years. It's the middle of the COVID times. I'm hard up for a place to live. I end up buying a decent house with a huge chunk of land in town right next to my new job. Everything seems great. Nice, quiet street, quiet but friendly neighbors who've lived there for 20 to 40 years, all original residents to when the street was built, all very friendly. Our 2 immediate neighbors have never come and introduced themselves. Hell, I still don't know the one guy's name, but what I do know, these 2 households are somehow related. Directly across the street from each other, we'll call them Crazy Neighbor 1 who lives across the street and Crazy Neighbor 2, who lives adjacent to me. Both their properties are the stereotypical rural junkyard, broken down vehicles, lawnmowers, random junk piles, weird smells coming out of CN2's trailer, shed thing. Both the houses look dilapidated and run down, and one of them is actually just one of those little Home Depot prefab sheds. But hey, they aren't my houses. That's fine. If they want their privacy and don't talk to people, I won't try to get them to talk to me. I'm just trying to live my life. This was only the start. I'm a new homeowner. I'm just excited to move in. The scene fades to black. Fast forward back to April 2023. CN2, who's adjacent to me, has begun mowing several feet over my side of the lawn, crossing directly over an 8x8 concrete pad. When I confronted him, CN2, which involved me trying to flag him down the road after and him ignoring me even though I was walking alongside his mower a few times while he was using his mower to drive to the store, he claimed the property was and always had been his. He owned a quarter of my concrete pad. I told him I didn't think he was correct. He maintained that he owned the pad even when the online property map from the local assessor office shows I actually own several feet over from the pad in question. I even went so far as to ask the older gentleman that lives down the street that had a metal detector to come find my property pins with me. Ended up with half the street wanting to know what I was doing. That was when I learned the entire street hates CN1 and CN2 due to some sort of weird legal thing between CN1 and CN2 and everyone else. Everyone telling me that CN2's a grifter and a troublemaker, up to no good, as it were. We come now to a few months down the road to present day. He's now taken to mowing many feet over, covering half my concrete pad each time. I feel really bad when I talk to him because he says, I worked my butt off for years to buy this land. I sent a letter to the local sheriff and prosecuted him for trespassing. I've tried really hard to be a good neighbor, but it seems like the only option to keep this creepy dude off my property is to get the police involved. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.